The Sunday tradition of MAGA Republicans and Trump stooges appearing on the morning shows to defend whatever indefensible thing Donald Trump said that week only continues to get more disingenuous and disastrous the closer we get to Election Day. Now, while every single day of the week and every single hour of the day, there is some Trump stooge on some right-wing outlet defending Donald Trump's lies and conspiracies, it is especially bad on Sunday because the worst of the worst show out. I am talking about the Tom Cottons, I'm talking about the Lindsey Grahams, and of course, I'm talking about the Byron Donalds, who appeared on CNN with Dana Bash trying to defend Donald Trump, and boy, was it a mess. So bad that Dana really just shut that interview off early and called out Byron to his face, leaving him silenced. It was a great showing, not for Byron, but I can't wait to get into it. But before we do, if I can quickly ask you to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video if you enjoy our channel. It really goes a long way. Now let's get into this first clip.
Congressman, as you were just talking about the devastation there from a natural disaster last night, the former president threatened to withhold wildfire aid from California over the state's water and environmental rules. Listen to what he said.
We're going to take care of our farmers. We're going to take care of your water situation. And we'll force it down his throat. And we'll say, Gavin, if you don't do it, we're not giving you any of that fire money that we send you all the time for all the forest fires that you have.
Are you comfortable with that, particularly given how you are seeing firsthand how important it is for federal help in a time of natural disaster?
Well, actually, Dana, this is a great question. I think when you look at Florida versus California, taking in hurricane force winds and massive flooding is one thing. There's not much the state of Florida can do to prevent that. You compare that with California's environmental policy. A lot of their forest fires are mostly caused because the state of California blocks the management of their lands. They don't clear the underbrush. We do that here in Florida, which is why you don't have the major issues of massive forest fires raging through our state. But California doesn't do the simple work of clearing underbrush. So who that really puts at risk are the citizens of California. And this is, in my view, radical environmental policy, decades long in that state. And so what ends up happening is that taxpayers have to foot the bill for this every single year.
Well,
I think what Donald Trump is really getting at is that California should actually take care of this problem as well.
As you know,
it is very different, but if you leave fuel on the ground in terms of branches and underbrush, it does contribute to larger forest fires. It simply does.
So are you saying that you're comfortable with President Trump saying that if he is elected again, he will withhold federal aid for fires in California?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not comfortable with that, and I think Congress is going to weigh in on this heavily. And of course, we're going to do what needs to be done. But so California does have to look at their land management issues in the future. They have to look at that, Dana, and we have to be responsible with the dollars that the federal government is going to be spending. We're always going to be there for the American people. Make no mistake about that. But California does have a responsibility to clean up their lands.
We have seen the constant stream of lies from MAGA Republicans about the relief President Biden and Vice President Harris have been providing to states affected by Hurricanes Helene and Milton. But now that Donald Trump is actively threatening the state of California, and let's remember, he did so during his first term. He also would not send the necessary aid to North Carolina in 2017. But now that he's threatening California, once again, Republicans don't want to talk about this. Sure, they are happy to push lies about President Biden and Vice President Harris, but when the truth comes out about Donald Trump, no, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to answer. They want to pivot. This is Byron Donalds at his finest, but his finest is his worst. So disingenuous, so disastrous, especially in this clip when his lies about the 2020 election were called out.
I do want to ask about a law that Congress passed, a new version of the Electoral Count Act. They passed it 2 years ago, and it makes it harder to object to certifying election results on January 6, 2025 and beyond. Some Trump allies have argued that's unconstitutional. The House Speaker hasn't taken a clear position. Should Congress follow that law in certifying the 2024 presidential election?
Look, I think when you're talking about the election this November, the thing that people want is that local jurisdictions follow the law passed by the states. As long as everybody does that, there's not going to be any problem certifying this election this November. But what really matters about this election are the issues facing the American people, not the Electoral College Count Act. Because what we need is a president who's going to secure our border, actually make our foreign policy be strong again and make sense again. That's what matters.
Are you going to follow the new law about certifying?
And I've been very clear, Dana, as long as states and jurisdictions follow election procedures in their states, there will be no problem for me or anybody on Capitol Hill.
All right. Well, that's a giant loophole that you're leaving there, which there's no evidence that that has not happened. It didn't happen in 2020.
That's not a loophole. That's actually not a loophole, Dana.
It is.
And if you look at what happened in Pennsylvania, Arizona, and other jurisdictions in 2020, they did not follow election procedures passed by the state legislature. That's an empirical fact.
Evidence of widespread fraud that went through, 60 court cases and even
Dana, I did not say fraud. You said fraud. What I'm talking about, and if you want to talk about it, let's be clear. You had the state of Pennsylvania where the state Supreme Court said they would count ballots 3 days after the polls closed in Pennsylvania in 2020. That's a violation of state law passed by the legislature, signed by the governor. But that's what happened in the state of Pennsylvania. That's one example.
Okay. Well, Congressman, this has been litigated, and I'm assuming that a lot more of it will be litigated. Let's just hope that everybody watches the votes counted and takes a breath and lets them be counted, particularly in Pennsylvania, which doesn't start to count by law until Election Day. Thank you for joining me.
MAGA Republicans continue to do this. When asked if they'll certify the 2024 election, which shouldn't even be a question, of course they say yes, under the condition that it's free and fair, which is a nonsense answer, because the last election was free and fair. How was it not? Every court case that Donald Trump took in front of any judge, even if it was his own, found the same result, that the election was fair, and that it was only Donald Trump trying to interfere with his fake slate of electors in states like Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona. That was Donald Trump. That wasn't President Biden. That wasn't Vice President Harris. But still, they will not say the truth, and it is just sad. What else is pretty sad is what was said in this clip right here.
Turn to the topic of what Kamala Harris is doing this coming week, particularly Monday and Tuesday. She's got several events courting black voters. I know that you are talking about the black vote coming out, particularly black men, for Donald Trump. You're trying to help him along with that. To that point, can you talk specifically about what Donald Trump would do policy-wise in a second term to help black Americans?
Sure, and thank you for that question. What Donald Trump is going to do is going to be actually quite similar to what he did in his first term. When you lower tax rates, when you cut these reckless and crazy policies that are now in the Kamala Harris administration, and you cut those regulations down.
Now, this question about the lower than expected support for Kamala Harris among black men is one that the campaign has been wrestling with every day, but someone who I think gave a really great response to this question and how the Kamala Harris campaign can reach out to these voters was Senator Raphael Warnock, who appeared on with Dana Bash right after Byron Donalds, and I want to take a look at what he had to say.
A New York Times poll released this weekend shows Vice President Harris at 78% among black likely voters. That's nearly 10 points behind what President Biden got that's according to the 2020 exit polls. So 1 in 5 black men are saying that they're supporting Donald Trump. Why do you think that is?
Listen, let me tell you something this morning. Black men are not going to vote for Donald Trump in any significant numbers. There'll be some. We're not a monolith. But as black folk in general and black men in particular consider who Donald Trump is, as they consider the fact that this is the man who literally took out a full-page ad in the New York Times saying that these young teenagers back in the 1980s who were accused of a horrific crime should receive the death penalty. And then when it was proven that the exonerated 5, the Central Park 5, were actually innocent, Donald Trump has shown no deal of concern about what they went through, no bit of contrition about it. He's doubled down on his position. This is who he is. And black men know that as they watch him deal with his own criminal problems and concerns, that the criminal justice system certainly doesn't handle them the way it handles him. On the other hand, you've got Kamala Harris, who, in her work as a prosecutor, found ways to give people a path towards a better life, who has spent her whole life as a lawyer, as a senator, and now as vice president, centering the concerns of ordinary people. Again, we're not a monolith, but this idea that large numbers of black men are going to vote for Donald Trump is not going to happen.
Yeah.
We know who Donald Trump is. We know who he has always been. He's a racist. It's plain, it's clear, it's indisputable. I'm sure he would tell you that behind closed doors. We cannot allow him to pretend he is anything else. We cannot allow Donald Trump to pretend that he was the best president for black Americans since Abraham Lincoln. Just an outrageous claim that he's laughed at every time. But we have to continue to communicate the message against Donald Trump. We are going to be doing so every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.